Hey guys, for the Salesforce Spring 18 release, I decided to create a series of unboxing videos where you get to witness my first look at some new key Salesforce features that are coming out with the new release. I'll start off by showing you just a couple of slides from the official Salesforce PowerPoint presentation describing some of these new features that we're going to be focusing on, and then I'm going to jump into my own Salesforce sandbox environment where we can play around a little bit with some of these features and see how they actually work. While we're doing that, part of the unboxing experience is where I will be sharing with you my raw, unfiltered, no-nonsense initial thoughts on these features. So I will tell you that prior to turning on the camera and hitting record, I minimally went in just to make sure that the features are there, that I know where to find it, so that when I turn the camera on, I don't look like a complete bumbling idiot. But other than that, I have not played around with the features that I'm about to show you. Before we go further, if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, you might want to do that so that you get notifications each time I upload a new YouTube video. And by the way, with my personality, you have no clue what I might post next. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to my podcast, go to iTunes, Spotify, or any other app that you use to listen to podcasts and subscribe to The Brainy 8 Show so that you can learn the best practices, hear my advice on managing Salesforce projects, your Salesforce career, your Salesforce apps, and managing your Salesforce data. Now, let's get on with the content that you came here to see. In this particular video, we will be focusing on personalized navigation. You can personalize an app's navigation bar to suit the particular way you work. You can reorder items and rename or remove items that you have added. Salesforce is also giving us a way to navigate with temporary tabs. This feature is new in Lightning Experience. Personalized navigation in Lightning Experience is similar to customized tab settings in Salesforce Classic, but a little bit different. In Lightning Experience, the navigation bar can contain more than just object-level items, like accounts. You can also add granular items, like a dashboard, a list, or even a specific record. So here we're looking at how we can manage items in the navigation bar. All Lightning Experience and users can now personalize the contents of the navigation bar for each app that they access. You can add your own items to the navigation bar, and then you can tweak them based on your own personal preferences. You can change the order of the way certain tabs are listed here, or certain items are represented on the top navigation bar. You can also rename or remove any items that you have added. The way we access this feature is with the pencil icon that appears in the upper right hand corner. So this is new in Lightning Experience, and that's where we would go ahead and access some of these features. Now, some considerations that you need to have in mind when personalizing your own navigation. First, there are some considerations for end users, and then we'll cover some of the considerations for the admin. So for end users, you can reorder, you can rename, or remove items that you have added to the navigation bar, but you cannot remove or rename the default items that were defined by the admins. So in other words, if you have a user that simply wants to rename the Opportunities tab or the Accounts tab, they can't do that. If they want to remove the Opportunities tab, they can't do that either. But they can move around the order of the tab. So if they want the Accounts tab to be all the way to the left and the Opportunities tab to be all the way to the right, they can absolutely do that. The next thing is that a navigation bar can only have up to 50 items. And that includes the default items, the default tabs that already appear in any Salesforce app. Those count towards the 50. If you already have 50 tabs, why on earth someone would want to have 50 tabs going across? I don't know, but I've seen crazier things. So if you already have 50 tabs going across the top in Salesforce, in your app, in Lightning Experience, your users will not be able to add any additional tabs. and we're going to dive into what that means to adding additional tabs. We're going to get to that soon. But if you have 50 tabs going across your as an end user, you're not going to be able to add anything. If you open temporary tabs, and we're going to get in a moment to what temporary tabs are. If you open temporary tabs, and then you open a new web browser tab, the temporary tabs are not going to be available in that new browser tab. So if you go in Google Chrome or Safari, whatever browser you're using, and you open a brand new tab to go into Salesforce, those temporary tabs will not be in the new browser tab. The other item you should be aware of is that admins are not going to be able to see or modify the personal items that users add to their own navigation bar. Personalizations that you make in the Lightning Experience navigation are not available in Salesforce Classic. Now let's shift gears and focus on the things you should be aware of for admins. For admins, you need to help your users get the most out of the personalization navigation that we have here, the personalized navigation. So the first thing that you need to do is just turning on Lightning is not going to do the trick. You need to also upgrade your classic apps to make them Lightning apps. Your users cannot personalize the navigation bar of classic apps, even in Lightning Experience. So, and if you're not familiar with what that means, I suggest you go into Trailhead and you'll do a search for upgrading your classic Salesforce apps to Lightning Experience apps to make them Lightning apps. So you'll need to do that first in order for your users to leverage this feature. Also, you need to revisit what is contained in your apps. Because if your users can now add their own navigation items, it would be a good idea to get rid of the clutter, get rid of those tabs on the navigation bar that some of your users, or maybe all of your users, don't need. The users cannot remove items. They can move them around, but they will not be able to remove items that you include in the navigation bar for a specific app. And because you can only have up to 50 tabs, as I mentioned earlier, you can only have up to a maximum of 50 tabs going across. If your app already contains 50 tabs going across, your users will not be able to add anything. If you have 32 items going across the top, 32 tabs, that means your users will only be able to add an additional 18 personal items, and after that, they will not be able to add anything else. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide. I mentioned earlier temporary tabs. Let's see what those are about. You can use temporary tabs in order to access important items directly from the navigation bar. For example, you can open, whether it's a frequently used dashboard in a temporary tab, or a record, or a list view. So if you have a particular account that you're working with frequently, you can go ahead and add any of those items as a temporary tab. Temporary tabs are also a great way to manage items that are not in your current app. So for example, if you have a particular item in the app launcher, something that's on your favorites list, or anything that's in a link, if it's not already accessible from the navigation bar, the item opens up as a temporary tab, and this way it's there for easy access. You can see in the screenshot that I'm showing here, and by the way, I'm going to show it to you soon live in my sandbox. You can see that when opening a temporary tab, there's an asterisk. Once there's an asterisk as a temporary tab, you actually have the option to make it a permanent tab for yourself. So it's on a per user basis. And that's pretty cool stuff. So the asterisk next to the item means that it's a temporary tab. Temporary tabs end up getting removed from the navigation bar when you close the item, when you log out of Salesforce, or when you switch to a different app. But again, you can turn a temporary temporary tab into a permanent one from the navigation bar. So here we're looking at a temporary app. So again, it's the same one where it says action plans with a little asterisk. And when you click on the arrow going down, we can see over here that there's an option that says add tab to nav. So by clicking on it, you will then make it a quote-unquote permanent tab for yourself by turning this item, which is not otherwise as a default in the app for all users. You first turn it into a temporary tab, and then you go here and you click on this, and then you turn it into a permanent tab for yourself, and it will always appear in your navigation on the top. So here we're looking at basically the same thing, but we're getting a little bit more granular. So here we're looking at opportunities, and we're on the left-hand side. We can see we're on the list view of recently viewed and recently viewed opportunities. So first, just like we saw prior to the Spring 18 release, we saw all of the other options listed here, but now we have this new option on the bottom that says Open View in Tab. And when it opens in a new tab, that's where we get this over here on the upper right-hand side. And initially it'll show it with an asterisk, but then you can go ahead and click, just like I showed you on the prior slide. You can go ahead and make it a permanent tab for yourself, so you will always have a tab bringing you directly to that list view. So this is where, by clicking on that pencil icon that I showed you earlier, this is the next screen that users will see, where they can go ahead and edit the navigation items. So items that the admin includes in the app will appear as a default. Those will not be removable. They will not be editable. But any personalized tabs that the user adds can be changed. So we can see here, not only we can rename them, we can move around the order, and we can also remove them entirely from the navigation. Okay, so here we are in my sandbox environment, and there's a grand total of like 3 or 4 records in here, by the way. So that's okay, because for simulation of the navigation, let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys. For the simulation of the navigation, I don't think it's necessary to have a whole lot of data in here. So over here we can see so far going across the top, everything looks pretty normal. And you can see over here, prior to hitting record, I went ahead and I added this one where it says all accounts. First thing we're going to do is we're going to click on that little pencil icon, which again, totally brand new for the Spring 18 release. Click on the pencil icon, and here I can see all of the options that are available. Now, when I click on any of these items, these are the default items that are included in this particular app. I can't remove them. I can't rename them. These are the default items that the admin set up. But I can reorder them. So let's go ahead and just throw them around in some obscure order that I personally would never use this order, but that's okay. And then if I scroll down a little bit more, I can see that this one item that I added prior to hitting record, to opening up the camera and recording this, the one item that I added, I can see over here that I can edit it, and I can also delete it. I can also, by the way, I can make it the first tab if I want to, yes. So let's go here and click on the pencil icon, and let's call this all of my freaking awesome accounts. And okay, it's quite wordy, but whatever, you guys get the point. Now I'll go ahead and hit save, and when I hit save, we're going to see that the tabs all change around based on the sequence that I specified, and that custom tab, my personal tab, was renamed as I specified. And by the way, when I go ahead and click on it, because it is going to call up the list view of all accounts, when I click on it, it's as if I'm clicking on the list view of all accounts. By the way, I only have one account in here, so that's all we're going to see. So we can see here, I got the list view of all accounts, and I can see the account. And okay, great. If at some point I decide I want to get rid of this custom tab, let's go ahead and do that. Click on the pencil icon, scroll over to my custom tab, and let's get rid of it, and hit save. And by the way, just because I'm just a little OCD, I'm going to resort things in a way that's just a little bit more logical to me. And yeah, I'm good with that. Let's go ahead and hit save. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how we can open things up in a temporary tab and how we can take that temporary tab and turn it into a permanent tab, and then how we can take a list view, turn it into a temporary tab, and then any specific record and turn it into a tab as well. So the first thing we're going to do is let's go over here to accounts, and when I click on the little arrow icon going down, everything up here looks the same, except now I have this option where it says open in a new tab. If I click on it, it's the screen that I'm on right now, which will open in a new tab. Let's get off of this particular, actually, you know what, I'll go ahead and do it. So the all accounts, let's go ahead and recreate that temporary tab that I had a moment ago. So I clicked on the open in a new tab, and now we can see, just like we saw in the PowerPoint slide, we can see that there's a new tab over here on the upper right hand side, and we have the little asterisk. And if I go here and now I click on it, it takes me basically to the same screen. And if I click on the little down arrow, I now have the option to add it to the navigation bar, essentially making it a permanent tab for myself. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So if I just click on the little entry over there, the visualization of the tab now changed. There is no asterisk, and that arrow pointing down no longer appears. Now let's go ahead and do the exact same thing for a specific record. So now let's go into a contact. I created a fictional contact of George Washington so that we have something to play around with here. So I'm looking at this contact record, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead under the Contacts tab. And again, I will click on Open in a new tab, and what we'll see is the temporary tab will open up over here, and it will be a direct tab to the George Washington record. There we go. So it opened up right here to the George Washington record. And if I go ahead and click on it so we can see, I can navigate. Let's navigate off. I'll go to the home page. There's nothing on the home page right now. And I can see that the tab is over here on the right hand side. If at any point I want to go back to it, let's get my favorite contact record. Ah, there it is. Boom, I'm on that contact record. And if I then want to remove it, I can click on the little X right here. If I then want to turn the George Washington record into a permanent tab for myself, I can go ahead and click where it says plus add to navigation bar. So basically, this is the same thing that we can do for list views. You can do this for individual records. And according to the PowerPoint, I'm not going to take the time to show it to you right now, but according to the PowerPoint, we can also do this for reports and dashboards. Now, my personal opinion on this is, on the one hand, this is very, very cool. This is very cool functionality where it gives end users the ability to really customize things to suit their own specific needs. But I will tell you, from my personal perspective, I found that end users are often struggling with the basics. Like basics as in how to log an activity. Basics as in even understanding the difference between a contact and an account and a lead and an opportunity. So I'm super concerned. I really am. I'm super concerned that users are going to essentially, maybe it's a stretch to use the word abuse, or I'll use a different phrase. I think users might get themselves caught up in a pretzel by unintentionally creating either temporary tabs or permanent tabs up to the maximum of 50, and then they're going to feel overwhelmed because in the end they're going to have, here, watch, let me go to the sample account record, and I'll create a specific tab just for this. And again, I don't have that many records here in Salesforce, but we could see here that I'm only going to have a certain number based on how far I'm zooming in or zooming out on my browser. I'm only going to have a certain number of tabs appearing, and I think a lot of end users are then going to say, where the heck are my other tabs? I know I added them, the system is broken. And they're going to have to click on more, and then they're going to have to navigate around to find those other tabs that they created. I think end users are going to be confused with the concept of a temporary tab versus a permanent tab. So when they log out, they restart their computer, they log back in, they're going to wonder how come the tab isn't there. I'm concerned that when users log onto their mobile phone, they're going to say, how come the same tab I created on the desktop, the temporary tab I created on the desktop, isn't on my mobile phone? Those are my concerns. I hope that I'm wrong. I honestly hope that I'm wrong. But I personally, as an admin, I would want to turn this feature off, I think. That's my initial, raw, unfiltered perspective on this. For now, I would probably want to turn this off and not give the end users the ability to confuse themselves and get frustrated. That would be my biggest concern. Anyway, those are my thoughts as it relates to the personalized navigation coming out with the Spring 18 release. I would love to hear your thoughts, so go ahead and leave me a comment down below. You can shoot me a note, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.